Hi again. This video is for my buddy Ralph. Ralph runs uncommonsupplies.etsy.com. It's not spelled like you think it would be, so I'm going to have a link underneath this video because you'll want to check out what they do. His family works with him, and he took over my link making when my partner quit. So I still needed to make links like in the hundreds because twisting them around a Sharpie wasn't practical anymore. So he makes my heavy gauge, perfectly cut, pure copper links that I get to soldering and hammering on. So they're really good quality, and I haven't found these anywhere else online. So if you're interested in making your own, you should check out Ralph's stuff. This video is for him because he's going to be supplying head pins, and I want to show everybody a really quick way to do it. There's like different levels of where you want to start your jewelry making, and at component level, when you're forging the actual components, you go through them pretty quickly, but the time it takes to make them is much greater, so you're like always running out when you need more. This is a system that I just came up with a few changes. Mike had another system in place, and I just simplified it with a hook. You just screw it into the ceiling. Yeah, I did it in all my homes, all three now. I'm out in the garage, so it doesn't matter, but just screw two hooks. These are just available. Actually, all of this can be gotten at Walmart or Home Depot, whatever. It's just one of those regular hooks, though. The important thing is that you get a hook that the brass link can go over. And the brass link needs to be a size that can fit through your copper tube, which is approximately 2 feet long, and it's 3/4 inch diameter. So that should, I don't think you can get that at Walmart, but I've had it so long I couldn't remember. Home Depot, definitely, copper pipe from Home Depot. And then this is plumber's chain. It's brass plated. That was really important. The first kind that I got was so heavy. It's I think it's steel. I couldn't open or cut the links, so that's no good, because you need to put in your hooks and measure down how far you would like for your copper tubing to hang. And the reason all of this needs to be metal is because you're going to be applying flame here, and you don't want any of this to be flammable or anything around you to be flammable. So metal hooks, brass chain, measured down to the appropriate eye height. The copper bar is about at my forehead so that I can see the tips of the metal a couple of inches under, usually about 2.5, 3 inches under. That would be something you need to measure for yourself. Mine came down 27 inches. I'm short. And I just slid it through the copper pipe, and then I cut the chain and put in a large jump ring. It's brass. I just had it laying around. It's just a large jump ring that I use as a hook to keep both chain sections kept together. But I also like being able to take this down and leave it to the side because it's right there at your forehead. You'll be standing approximately a foot away from your metal tips, so you'll need your eye gear. Don't worry, I'll have a list of the materials right underneath this video, okay? So far we're at a hook, chain, and copper tubing, and that's really as easy as it gets. Instead of individually holding your wire in a flame, you can set up your wire in groups and pre-counted batches, and then just melt the tips on a double piece of wire. So let's see, what would you like to know? I am using a butane torch normally. 26 gauge, 24 gauge, 22 gauge can be melted with a butane torch. Anything thicker in metal gauges, and you have to go to a propane torch setup, and I'm not comfortable giving you instructions on how to set that up. I think that should be set up through a class or through maybe a local electrician or plumber, somebody who works with these setups. My poppy put mine together, and it's kind of renegade, which is how I do all my stuff. So I don't really want to. I don't want you to use me as an example for this setup. But you should know that if it's thicker than 22 gauge copper, bronze, or brass, you would have to have a hotter flame than your butane torch to melt the tips. That's just how it is. So either way is limited. I tried to fill my butane torch and it's not lighting, so I can't actually demonstrate with the butane, but it works the same way as the propane flame, is medium heat, and I'll show you once we have our wires up there. But I wanted to explain that I'm using 26 gauge bronze, and I wrap it around my hand. Oh, don't you love when that happens? There is no end. I lost my end. Here, let me show you the batch I have cut. This section of my hand will give me approximately 2.5 inches of head pin, which I use for everything. Like, I just use that much wire in all of my wraps. They're usually double wrapped. So if I'm using average size beads, then I have plenty of wire to mess up on and straighten out or create twirls with or whatever. So this works for me. If you have a larger hand, you can have larger head pins. But this is like the quickest way to just roll it up, and you pull it off of your hand, and you only cut one side so that you have all these wires that are pre-measured, and all they need to do is be arranged an inch apart. It is more difficult to work with the thinner gauges. They're wily. Once you have your head pins laid out and detangled, you can get your torch flame going. I think that's a good amount to show you, for example. The ones that are curving over and touching the next wire, you want to straighten those out because it can melt onto the wire next to it, which is something you might want to do at some point, create a double head pin, but I'm not doing that today. I need single head pins for my buddy. Let me pick up the ones I dropped. I usually don't work with bronze. I usually work with copper, which melts beautifully in a medium-high flame. Bronze, I had a difficult time with. The heads were popping off. I decreased my heat and added more propane, less oxygen, so I had a bushier flame, which you'll see. I hope you can see it on the camera, but it gave me a nicer ball that melted up. Sometimes they would spit out, and they shoot you in the chest and stuff like that. So you have to wear your eye protection, your eye gear, because you don't want to go blind over a 20-cent head pin, I'm sure. I've got my propane going. Let that run through the tubes. And I'm going to slowly increase my oxygen. If it goes out a lot, your propane is, it does that a lot on me. My oxygen tank valve is open too much, so I need to close